New at NAMM show from Waves is the Mastering Bundle. Mastering Bundle includes a linear phase equalizer, linear phase multiband, and a new 96K version for the first time in native of the L2 Ultra Maximizer. Most equalizers, in fact almost all equalizers that everybody uses out there, shift the phase. And while this is not always considered to be universally bad, in fact the signature sounds of such products like a API Lunchbox or Neve EQ have to do with phase shift. There are many applications, especially on the mastering side, where the phase shift is not desirable. In other words, you want a clean sound, and also something that happens with shifting the phase in an EQ is it messes with your transients. Transients are, of course, multi-frequency, short duration pieces of audio, a lot of high frequency, but there's many different frequencies that make up a transient. And what phase shift does is it smears this. So it's really degrading your image. So once you've established a mix where you have the sounds that you want and the EQs that you want, further phase shift in an equalizer is really going to degrade your sound in a way that you didn't intend. So this is really intended for a mastering application. So you can see here we have there's two versions of this plugin. This has got 5 higher frequency bands and 1 specialized low frequency band. There are 9 different filter types here on each of the high frequency bands, and we have 5 different filter types on the bottom frequency band. Also, we make a separate low frequency component that is very specialized. So it has the 9 different filter types on all 3 bands, specializing on the low frequency. And for those who are familiar with our other equalization products, the interface will be familiar with how you change things, and you can pull them on the screen or change them down here. Another feature is our trim control here. You can run your audio through, and this will measure your peak areas, and any place where you're over your peak, it'll check for your overs and register how many dB over. And then you just click this once, and it will provide optimum trim for no overs. So this is a nice automated trim function here. We put this particular bundle up against anything out there, anywhere, and any hardware or any software. For those of you who are familiar with real high-end mastering products, the only other linear phase EQ of note out there is the Daniel Weiss product, going for over $6,000. And we definitely stack this up against the Weiss product. In fact, the filter shapes in here are more analog than what the Weiss product offers. Next thing is the linear multiband. Those familiar with a C4 will notice that there's some heritage here from a C4. In this case, there's 5 bands, and each band makes use of the linear phase crossover. Now, you know, in the C4, we introduced phase compensation in the crossovers for greater phase coherency, and here we take it the next step, where all settings of any of the compression and equalization settings in here is absolutely phase coherent, absolutely phase linear. A couple other interesting things here is our adaptive threshold. This is the first time this has been in any product of this type. And what the adaptive does is address masking. There's a number of different types of masking, but the most common form of masking is where a low frequency band, when it's loud, masks material an octave above or harmonically related. So in other words, loud low frequency sounds tend to mask softer higher frequency sounds. And the adaptive threshold allows the linear phase multiband to work, so if there's a loud low frequency sound, we actually reduce any gain reduction. In other words, raise the volume of things in higher bands related to this. So if you get a large low frequency energy here, you'll have less attenuation progressively in your higher bands. So this addresses the masking phenomena. It's the first time it's out there in any product. It addresses subtle things of psychoacoustics that would be very hard to reproduce with specialized EQ, even automated EQ and automated level in a mix. Also, like our other product, this has the automated trim control. where you play your peaks, and we optimize to the program material. Something else to mention is this is capable of not just compression and expansion, but also typical compression is top-down, and this of course does top-down compression of your peaks, but it will also do low-level compression, where it leaves your peaks alone, doesn't do any cut of your peaks, and brings the bottom of the mix up into the middle. And this is something of particular note in mastering, where you want competitive level, but you don't want to squash your peaks. The last thing I'll show you here is a familiar L2 in a new incarnation set for 96K compatibility, and that's the Masters bundle.